Hey guys, Adam aka ACS Radical here for your weekly PixelPlay Sidequest, your bonus content here on YouTube. Um, we're gonna talk a little bit about cozy games on this one. So there was a Reuters article that came out. I will leave it in the description if y'all want to check it out, talking about the benefits and the research that's been done to show how beneficial cozy games have actually been for a lot of people's stress levels and their psyche, especially during the pandemic. Because as we all know, there was some stress going on. This decade has been very stressful for a lot of different reasons, depending on where you are in the world. But even from the very beginning of 2020 with Animal Crossing, it was very obvious that cozy games are really starting to make a push. It had already been going for a while now. I mean, you look at, say, Stardew Valley. Obviously, they've existed way before that with Harvest Moon and other games like that. But this decade, I think, has really made the push that cozy games are similar to how Soulsborne games really started to make a push around the time of Dark Souls 2, 3, and Bloodborne. I think now, we're at a safe point to be like, cozy games are very much a norm. And especially for me, I play a lot of them too. And I wanted to, I could have talked about the article and stuff that Reuters put out. I'll let you guys, if you want to read it, take a look at it there and go through all that stuff. I more just wanted to, talk about some of the cozy games that really, really did it for me. And obviously, I would not be talking about cozy games if I didn't immediately bring up Coffee Talk, which is still the de facto cozy game for me. There is no game that has done this vibe better than any other game I've played. This series, now that it's at 2, this series essentially is the coziest possible thing because it's just really good, real talk about issues that actually are happening in the real world. Guys in this Dungeons and Dragons level world of an alternate Seattle, where it's you as a barista in a coffee shop making some badass tea, matcha, coffee, cappuccino, hot chocolates, whatever the hell that your customers want, and just shooting the breeze with them for what is essentially a 6-hour experience, and does so with a tremendously well done art style, characters that are very easy to attach to, and honestly, one of the best soundtracks I've ever played in a game. It's so good. I literally have a playlist that is just called Cozy Music, and that game is about half of those songs because it's the entire soundtrack on each of those games. They're just so well put together by Andrew Jeremy on that. What makes a game cozy to me is, quite frankly, it's in a similar way to how, as an anime watcher, I like to watch a lot of comedy, a lot of less story intensive and a lot less, dark or serious shows. Because when you watch a comedy, you can turn your brain off and just enjoy yourself. Cozy games, what I find is you turn the part of your brain off that is about worrying about what's happening around you, Because obviously you're not turning your brain off completely. You're, depending on, say, a Stardew Valley, where you're looking at different things that you got to complete in the day. But it's things that just, you zone the fuck out of real life. Because obviously you can do that in any game. But in cozy games, it's also turning the stress level to 0. Because people will play, sports games, Call of Duties, roguelites, all these other things for zoning out of real life, but they can be stressful. These games are turn your brain off and turn your stress level to 0 while you play these. And a lot of games do this well. Coffee Talk does it the best out of anything I've played. And the reason that it's the sum of all its parts, right? It's the story is very easily to relate to. It does take some subjects that are a little pressing in the real world, but because of the music, because of the atmosphere, because of the buddy-buddy nature of the conversations, you don't really think about it in terms of the real world. You just go, yeah, I totally understand these thoughts. I understand the situation. I vibe with this. I relate. But it doesn't put the stress level up to you at all. Unless it's one of those very rare cases where it's something that's really personal to you and it's kind of a sore spot at the moment, That might be different, but like for the average person, doesn't exist at all. So it does that tremendously well. I would say also like your games like your Peggles and what was the recent roguelike like Peglin, very similar to that in its own different right, in the way that it's very chill, just messing with it. Balatro is great for that too. It does stress you out in different ways, but like in all honesty, like I don't get stressed by Balatro apart from me just getting really, really irritated for like half a second that I keep discarding cards just to get one more goddamn 9 so I can finish my straight. And the game's like, you mean every other card in your deck? And there's that. But like 99% of playing Balatro is chill. So I kind of consider that in the same light. Even games like Until Then and A Space for the Unbound, which do have their very sad moments, are just so heartwarming and so easy to fall comfortable in. And, you know, like I said, Until Then being my gameplay my game of the year last year, definitely falls into that category just because of the fact that so much of it is just so easygoing. Obviously, there's a lot of emotion into it, but like, it's just kind of just seeing, you know, stuff play out in this very nice art style that really just always has a good charm to it. For the most part, like, it's almost like a teenage, high school, like, slice of life anime. It's very comfortable. It's another thing of like going back to anime. It's just, there are certain shows where it's just really calming and doesn't really push any stress levels on you at all. There are moments in this game where it makes you really, really sad. There are games where you get a little upset in the way that certain people are handling stuff. But what the game always does so well is the vibes that it carries always leave you either smiling or just kind of sitting back in your chair or sitting back on the couch, or if you're lying in bed or wherever you are, just kind of getting comfortable in whatever apparatus you're lying or sitting in and just kind of not thinking about shit. And, you know, I could name so many other games otherwise, but like the key with all of these games and what makes them so effective and why they're becoming such a consistent trend now is because, quite frankly, in today's world, this world fucking sucks. And a lot of games can pull you away, but I find that a lot of games can also stress you out too in the moment. Obviously, playing Call of Duty, you're not going to be sitting at your desk at work or while you're on the bus or while you're driving on the highway going back and thinking like, fucking Call of Duty, man, I'm going to go back there and this guy's going to be on, or this class still isn't fixed. You're not necessarily doing that. But when you're sitting at your desk or on the bus or driving to work, you're thinking about what's going on with the climate. You're thinking about, depending on where you are in the world, especially if you're in the States or here in Canada, the hell's going to go on politically. If you're a person who is trans, you've got a lot of shit on your mind. There's so many different things going on in the world. And I don't pretend to know what's going on in other parts that I don't have any perception of, but like, I know what's going on here. I'm stressed out about what's happening in the States. I'm stressed out about our potential election coming up later this year. And I don't need to fucking partake in a bunch of content that's going to make me upset anymore. I've said it before on the show. I don't play a lot of competitive multiplayer anymore because a lot of these games evoke something out of me that I don't like. For example, I play softball in the spring and summer and some of the fall, and I love it. But also, I can get really, really fucking upset at shit. Because not that I necessarily don't like losing, but because there's competition in there, it brings a part of me out that I don't like. And it's why for the longest time, I don't play a lot of these games anymore, because the last thing I need is to be yelling into a microphone to people that don't need to hear that shit, because they've already got enough shit to deal with too. And cozy games, like your coffee talks, like Until Then, like Stardew Valley, like so many others, what they provide is the ability to the ability to still play a game and take my mind off of things, but also leave me. I've got hiccups now. Great. Fantastic. But it also allows me to play a game that doesn't end up booting my stress levels up to a point where I get really snippy, because I can get like that. When I'm at work and there's stuff pissing me off, I vent. And more often than not with cozy games, there's no venting to be had. I'm either laughing, saying like, oh, that's funny, telling jokes, and sometimes playing in a Discord, so I'm just talking with people. I'm not angry. And cozy games do the one thing that I need the most, which is to keep myself from being angry all the time. And the research is showing, again, that Reuters article I'll paste below, it's showing that there is indeed a trend that these games are actually reducing stress levels. And I know that some people, they work differently with certain games, but like the fact that these games are doing what needs to be done in this current time, and the fact that they're also becoming games that are more accessible to other people that wouldn't normally play a lot of video games, makes the industry thrive even more. Do I think that there might be, maybe they're overdoing the cozy structure right now? I think you could make that case, because there are a lot more of these now that we're seeing in like not E3 anymore, but like those types of reveal streams, say the Game Awards and Summer Game Fest. We're seeing a lot more cozy games now. You could make a case there might be too many getting pushed in a single stream, but my argument to that well, a lot of shit's happening in the world that's making it real goddamn depressing, so maybe more cozy games is kind of what's needed right now. And I gotta say, I'm okay with that right now, because there's a lot of shit that I don't need to be stressed about anymore. But I think is there anything else that I want to add? No, I think that actually covers it. So, we're going to end it here. So I want y'all to say in the comments below, like, what do you think about cozy games? Like, what's your favorite games? What do you like the most out of them? What do you think some are missing? And hey, like, do you think that maybe the cozy game genre is getting a little bit too big of a push? Do you think it's not getting less of a push? Let me know whatever your thoughts are on this in the comments below. So obviously here on YouTube, like, subscribe. Obviously you see the link tree. I'm pointing in the wrong direction because I forget that at all times things are mirrored. There's the link tree at the bottom there, link to our Discord, link to our socials, all that jazz. And obviously share this with all your friends, anybody who you think would be interested in this sort of content. As always, podcast on Wednesdays at noon. These are always uploaded Fridays at noon. Should be back with at least a second person next week. We'll see what goes on. But for that, that's going to do it for me. Take care. Bye-bye for now.